All right, so today's worksheet is a kind of review or wrapping up what we did yesterday in class. So you have a couple worksheets today, a couple things to remember when we're talking about complementary angles. Those are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So here, when it talks about the complement of 30, all right, the other angle, what does it have to be? Well, remember, complement means they add up to 90. So if this one is 30, the other one has to be 60. The supplement of 65 degrees. So remember, supplementary means they add up to 180. So if the first angle is 65, you got to find out what that second angle is. All right. Now let's talk about how we're going to work through these type of problems. So first of all, you're given an angle right here. We know that this angle right here is 180 degrees. I need to figure out what angle 5 is. So if you think about this, if we kind of take this line out right here, just erase it, notice we would have a straight line. And straight lines always have to add up to 180 degrees. So if this one is 128, you got to figure out what this has to be to get us to 180, because this would just be a straight line if we were to take this out. Get rid of that. So if this is 128, I got to figure out what this is to be a straight line, which would be 180 altogether. So I have to do 180 minus 128. Borrow, make that a 7, that's a 10, so that gives me a 2 and a 5. So this here has to be then 52 degrees, because that would give us 180 degrees, which is a straight line. So this one, we're going to do the exact same idea. Imagine that this is taken out. That would give us one straight line. So altogether, this has to add up to 180. So if this is 73, you got to figure out what this is. All right. When you have something that looks like this. So yesterday we talked about these things that are called vertical angles. So if I have two lines that cross, notice you have two angles directly across from each other. So you've got this angle and this angle. They are directly across from each other. They're called vertical angles. And if you think about this, if I could pick this angle up right here and just flip it over, it would land on number 8. All right. So because of that, if I could flip this over, if this is 80 degrees, then this here would also have to be 80 degrees, because vertical angles, that idea of flipping it over, that's 80 degrees, not 800. So this is the same as this. So we know that angle 8 has to be 80 degrees. Now, we got to find 9 and 7. So let's use what we did before. If this is 80, these two angles right here would make a straight line. So from here to here would be that straight line. Imagine that this side right here was gone. You would just have one straight line. Well, if this is 80, what does 9 have to be? Because remember, straight lines have to equal 180 degrees. So angle 9 would there have to be 100, because that would give me 180 degrees for this straight line. Let's see, that was 80. So this here, because this would be my straight line, if I took this out, that has to be 100. Now notice, once again, when I have two lines that intersect, the angles opposite each other are equal, because this one, I could flip right over onto this one and it would land right on it. So this angle right here, if I took it, I could flip it right over onto angle 7. It would land right on here exactly. So these are called vertical angles, and vertical angles are always equal. So if this is 100, that also has to be 100. Now notice what happens here. Notice how these two angles give us a straight line. All right, if I were to take this out, there's your 180 again. If I were to take this out, there's your 180. So we're back to this idea that straight lines equal 180 degrees. All right, one more type of problem. So here, they give us 38, and then they don't tell us this, they don't tell us this, but they do have a clue down here. So my clue down here is this little box. And hopefully we know that this little box is a right angle, and right angles are always 90 degrees. Now, imagine this. If I go straight across, if I were to erase this line, and I were to erase this line, wouldn't this be one nice, big, long, straight line? So together, all of this has to equal 180 degrees. So this plus this has to be 180. So this idea of the right angle plus some type of angle, which I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to call it x, plus 38 has to equal 180 degrees. So what I could do is I could add these two pieces together. So 90 plus 38 is going to give us 128 when I add these two pieces together. So this and this together is 128. Remember, I have to get to 180 because this would be a straight line. So my 128 plus something has to add up to 180 degrees. So I can subtract 128 from 180. That will give me this missing side. So today is all about two big major ideas. This idea of straight lines equal 180. So all this has to add up to 180 somehow. And then also this idea of vertical angles. When I cross two lines, the angles opposite each other are called vertical angles, and they have the exact same measure. All right, so that's how you're going to work on your two worksheets today. Any questions, make sure you email me.